Yeah, you want to spend less money so that you can have more left over to pay off debt, to build your savings, and to invest for the future. But the question is, how do you do that effectively? Because a lot of times we have the best of intentions, but we end up spending more than we wanted, going over budget, getting in arguments, and things like that. So, how do we spend less money without giving up the fun, without the arguments, and in simple, sustainable ways that we can actually track and follow? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here today. Hi, I'm Rob Burtman, founder of Family Budget Expert, and I help families save more, argue less, and keep the fun. And we do that through online courses, we do that through one-on-one consulting, speaking engagements, and free content like this. So today's topic, I know everyone wants to see where they can cut back spending, but we actually go about doing it a little bit backwards. And so today, we're going to give you some simple tactics that aren't what you think to help you spend less money over time. So let's just start off by the ways that people tend to overspend, okay? There are really two ways that I see my clients and other people overspend. The first one is on the fixed expenses. So, call it too much house, too much car. Now those, it's hard to spend less money on those areas because they're already fixed unless you move, unless you sell your car or, pull your kids out of daycare or out of the schools and stuff like that. Those are like highly disruptive ways to spend less money. So there's got to be some easier levers to pull. We're not going to start there. If we want to spend less money, we're going to talk about the things that we spend money on that we can actually change easily without feeling like they're going to change our lifestyle. So let's not worry about the house. Let's not worry about the car. Let's not worry about daycare or school for the kids or anything like that. What we want to do is focus on the things that we spend on most often, right? The day-to-day stuff. And we can find a lot of ways to spend less money there. So, first and foremost here, a lot of times people overspend the more often they spend. Think about it. Have you ever walked out of a store or checked out online with more in the cart than you anticipated buying? Of course you have. We all have, right? Because every time you spend money is an opportunity to overspend. And that's because we leave with more than we anticipated. So this is the number one tip that I can give to you in terms of how to spend less money. We'll cover a couple other things and a couple more specific things, but just this one thing changes families' lives that I work with, okay? So let's start off by talking about how most people do it, is they track how much they spend. So filled up the car with gas, $60.32. Went to the grocery store, $205.90. Bought something for the kids online, $20.87, okay? When we start doing it that way, it makes it kind of complicated. Like the other night, we were sitting at the dinner table. My daughter just started kindergarten, and she's doing some math in her head and stuff like that. And she said, "What's 8 plus 8?" Now, she's in kindergarten, and we have two other boys that are in 7th grade and 5th grade. So obviously, they have their ideas of how to do this, and they were really interested in sharing with my daughter. So they, of course, said, well, if you take 8, you have 2 8s, and if you take 2 from one of the 8s and move it over to the other 8, that makes 10, and then there's 6 over there, and then 10 plus 6 is 16. Now, this, works in terms of math, but for a kindergartner, not so much. The idea is, how do we keep it simple so we don't have to track every dollar we spend? So my wife had the idea, she brought over these pluses, which are these sort of colorful, they look like little puzzle pieces, and you stick them together and you can form shapes. But she said, here, Nina, count out 8 of these pluses. Okay, now count out another 8 pluses. And now count them all together. And so my daughter did that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. She said 8 and 8 is 16. And it's so simple when we just think about counting rather than thinking about moving numbers around in order to make it work, right? So my number one tip, if you want to spend less money, is count how often you spend. How many times per day do you spend? Now, for families, if we're in the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 range of transactions per day, meaning gas station, that's 1. Online shopping at Amazon, that's 2. Food shopping, that's 3. Dining in is for ordering in lunch is 4, and so forth. Now, don't worry about the different bills. Just worry about the little things that you do every day. Families that can keep their spending transactions to 4 or 5 a day or less are more likely to spend less money. Those who are in the 6+ range of transactions per day end up spending more. It's sort of the death by 1,000 cuts, right? Every time you spend, you leave with more than you anticipated. And I see this in any number of different ways. For example, grocery shopping, a lot of times the families that spend the most on groceries are the ones who go to the grocery store more often or who have Instacart more often. The more of those transactions, the greater the number they spend. Now you might say, well, Rob, that just means I have to go to the grocery store less often, but my bill every time I go is going to be more. That is true. But over time, how much you spend in total over the week will be less. So the number one tip I can give you is just every time you spend, forget about the dollars. Forget about how much you're spending. Just count transactions, gas station, morning coffee, lunch, dinner, online purchase, one to the store. Oh, that's 6, right? See if you can keep yourself to 6 or less. And that means if you get to that threshold during the day, then that means you're going to be making dinner at home that night, right? Just start thinking about it that way. Think about budgeting how often you spend instead of budgeting how much you spend, okay? A really wild concept, I know, but it works so well for families. Okay, so the number one way to spend less money is to count your transactions per day. The other thing it does is it makes you aware of your spending. So often we just kind of click without thinking about it, or we buy without thinking about it, or we go from this store to that store, or we're going all over the place. And busy families, that's kind of how we have to operate, right? But if we just think, okay, 1, 2, 3, it slows us down, makes us more conscious of it. So start counting how often you spend as a family. And that includes the kids' app purchases or movies on Amazon Prime or Apple downloads and apps and stuff like that. That all counts as one transaction. So see if you can keep your family to 5 or less. Okay, that's one. That's probably the most important tip. Okay, now here's some others. I would say that food is a really big category for families. And the reason that is because we have our dining out budget and we have our grocery budget. So a lot of times, the more often we spend on going out to eat and groceries, the more we spend. Just like that first concept we talked about, right? So how do you spend less on groceries and food in general without feeling like you have to change where you shop and what you buy? Super easy. There are a couple different things you can do here, okay? Number 1, keep a shopping list. I was never a list person. My wife is a list person. I can tell you it has changed my life because not only do we spend less money, but I'm in and out of the grocery store in like less than 30 minutes now because I have a list of what I need to get. And it actually helps the kids too, because if they want something, they need to add it to the list. And if it's not on the list, I'm not getting it for them. That's just the way it goes. When I go to the grocery store, I stick to the list. So keep a list. Now, the second thing about that is a lot of times food waste comes in the form of stuff in the freezer, stuff in the pantry, stuff in the fridge that we just kind of forget about, and then it goes bad. So if we're talking about grocery shopping, my wife has this like great trick that she uses where what you do is when you buy your entree that you're going to make and the sides that you're going to make, she has a list on the refrigerator of like entrees that we have, whether they're in the freezer, the pantry, the refrigerator, or just, hanging out. And then we have a list of the sides. So it could be a vegetable or a fruit or like something else, right? And when she comes home from work and starts making dinner, because that's what she loves to do as soon as she gets home, is like get right to it. She looks at the list of what we have in terms of the entrees, and in terms of what we have aside, she just picks one. And she doesn't have to go like scouring through the refrigerator, scouring through the freezer, the pantry, because she knows what we have. Not only does this help save money not only does it help save money and not let food go to waste that's actually in your house, which is money you've spent but haven't eaten yet. What it also does is it makes sure that you're not like, I don't know what to make, so let's just order in tonight. Those impulse sort of like dinners in that can eat up your budget. Because once you order in, you've got to pay for the food, which is at a premium, then you've got to pay for the tip and stuff like that. Okay, so keep a list when you go to the grocery store, and keep a list of what you have to make so that you can just look at that really easily. Okay? So those are probably the 2 biggest tips to eliminate food waste and to spend less money on food. Now, when it comes to dining out, you don't have to stop going out altogether. You can still go out to eat, okay? But a couple things you can do. If you normally get an appetizer, an entree, dessert, and 2 drinks, just get rid of one of those. Either get rid of the appetizer and get the dessert, or get rid of one of the drinks, or get two appetizers instead of entree and a dessert. Whatever you need to do. You can still go out with friends, you can still go out with your family, but just start thinking about cutting back what the bill is going to look like at the end. And if you can reduce that, you can do that. You can reduce your dining out bill by 20% just by looking and being more conscious about what you want to get and things like that. So super easy to do when it comes to going out to eat. One other thing you can do if you go out to lunch is a lot of people think they have to stop going out to lunch altogether. If they go out to lunch 5 days a week, they feel like they have to get rid of that altogether. But you don't. If you just cut back going out 1 day a week, and so you pack a lunch 1 day a week and go out 4, you've automatically cut your lunch budget by 20% just by doing that, right? Okay, so that's how you save money on food. Keep a list. Go out one time less often, and when you order out, just be conscious about how much you're ordering. You don't have to change it; just be conscious of it. Now let's talk about the other big category: shopping. Right? Whether that's clothing, Amazon, things like that. One of the best things you can do is unsubscribe from those promotional emails that you get from the stores. And I know you might be thinking, "But Rob, what about if there's a great sale and I miss it because I don't have that promotional email coming in my inbox?" Well, guess what? A lot of times people buy because there is a sale instead of buying what they need or what they want at that time. And the other thing is, do you notice how many promotional emails you get? Chances are, if you miss one, they're gonna have another promotional email and another sale for you. I promise you. Otherwise, why would they come into your inbox and give that to you, right? So just unsubscribe from the promotional emails because it just gets you to spend more money. And because something is on sale, it gives the appearance that you're actually saving money, but you're actually spending money, right? So unsubscribe from the promotional emails. A third one that we'll talk about here is forget about the savings, okay? A lot of times people entice you by, do this and you get 20% off, or do this and you get extra points. Instead of thinking about how much you save, this is tip number 3. Instead of thinking about how much you save, think about how much you're spending, okay? Oh my gosh, I spent $100, but had I not been on sale, I would have spent $140. Great. You saved $40, but you spent $100. And if you need to spend that money, totally fine. Totally your prerogative. Again, I'm not here to tell you what you should and shouldn't spend your money on. I'm here to help you identify the things that you can do without on your terms, and so you can keep the things that you enjoy. So start thinking about what you're spending rather than how much you're saving. Flip it around. Forget the savings, focus on the spending, okay? Now, one final thing I want to say, this is sort of like a little bonus tip, is when you're thinking about spending less money, do not start with the things that you really care about. Do not start with the things you really care about. Start with the things you don't care about, okay? So if you are financial partners with somebody, you're married, or you're just kind of financially combined or whatever, the most important thing is identify the things that you as an individual want to spend money on, the things that they want as an individual want to spend money on, and those are kind of off limits for cutting, okay? And the reason that is because then you can focus on the things you really care about, the things that you agree on, you can cut out without feeling like you're changing your lifestyle. So this is the best way to minimize fights if you are in a relationship where there's money intertwined, right? Whether you're married, partners, whatever. Start by cutting out the things that you don't care about that you spend money on, and don't worry about the other person's stuff. There's no veto power here. You can't tell that person they shouldn't spend money on that if they care about it, and you can't tell the other that they shouldn't spend money on that if they care about that. Keep the things you both enjoy, the things that make you fulfilled, make you your unique individual selves. Focus on spending money on things that you enjoy doing as a couple and as a family. And then work together on the things you agree on to cut back. If you want to spend less money, start by pulling those levers of the things that you actually agree that you can get rid of without feeling like you're sacrificing your lifestyle. So if you use these 4 tips, count your spending, keep a grocery list, look at the spending rather than the savings, and start with the things that you agree on to spend less money on, I guarantee you'll be well on your way to spending less money. So I hope you found these 4 tips helpful. If you go to familybudgetexpert.com, you can find all the ways that we can work together. You can find free content. You can download free guides, look at the online course, book me for a speaking engagement if you're someone who does that. Thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I look forward to helping you in your journey to spend less money so that you can finally have extra to pay down that debt faster, to build up your savings and invest for the future. We'll talk to you soon.